Hi, today I'm binding the Tumbling Leaves table runner. I cut my fabric in 2.5-inch strips. I measured the perimeter and add 10 to 15 inches. This is the total length of strips I need to cut. Now I sew the strips together end to end, sewing them right sides together on the diagonal. Cut off the corners and press the seam allowance open. Then I press the whole strip in half lengthwise. Next, I sew the binding to the back of the quilt, matching the raw edges of the binding to the edge of the quilt with a 1/4-inch seam. A walking foot is useful here. When you get to the corner, stop a 1/4 inch away from the edge and sew diagonally off the edge of the quilt through the corner. Now turn the quilt and fold the binding straight up to create a diagonal fold in the binding. Hold the diagonal fold in place and fold the binding back down along the quilt edge, creating a new fold that is lined up with the top quilt edge. Now start sewing a 1/4 inch from the top quilt edge and continue in this way until you're about 8 to 10 inches from the start point. Cut your thread. We're going to trim the binding so there's a 2.5-inch overlap, which is the width of the binding strip, so I'm using a binding scrap as a guide. Fold the quilt fabric back onto itself and pin so you have room to work with the binding. Take both binding ends and place them right sides up. Turn the bottom strip towards the top strip and place the strips together at a right angle, right sides together. Pin them and sew them together on the diagonal. Trim the excess fabric and remove the pins from the quilt. Now finish sewing the binding to the back of the runner. Press the binding away from the back and clip the corner binders neatly in place with binding clips. Sew the binding to the front of the quilt carefully, just barely overlapping the binding with the previous stitching. I'm using a dull old seam ripper as a stiletto to help guide the fabric. And now I'm done. If you want to make your own table runner and throw quilt, get your free pattern through the link in my bio.